Destination Medicine is a joint project of the regional training hubs. This podcast series brings you medical students' accounts of their experience in applying to study medicine. Welcome to Destination Medicine. I'm Peter Letts. In 2021, without a word to anyone and with just 2 months to study, Jessica Mepstead took on the GAMSAT and she won. The experience has given her great perspective on the process and she offers some strong, logical tips for how to get through it. A dietitian by trade, it made Jessica's road to medicine a little less bumpy, but it's the scale of the requirements that still takes her breath away. She loves studying in Dubbo. Now a third-year medical student at the Dubbo School of Rural Health, Jessica's embracing all of the opportunities that come with being part of a smaller cohort. And the rural lifestyle suits her to a T. Short distances, strong community, and lots of activities. Jessica explains to Nicole Goodman what sparked her desire to transition from dietitian to doctor.
Probably around 2020. I'd been working as a dietitian for a few years, but I was starting to look for ways that I could do more. I wanted to learn more. I wanted to learn something different and help people in other ways. And I'd started to recognize that maybe being a doctor could help me to do that. And I really wanted to make a difference on patients' journey in healthcare. And I felt that combination of being a dietitian and medicine could work together really nicely.
Well, yeah, on that point, how much of an advantage was having that dietitian background in your medical journey?
It's been advantageous from the perspective that doctors don't learn very much about nutrition. And I've definitely seen that both in my studies so far and also in the time that I've been working in hospitals. And so it's been helpful that I have unique knowledge. And it's also been helpful that it's taught me how to communicate and talk to people and approach people and their journeys from a different perspective. But at the same time, there was so many things that I didn't know, so many things I hadn't been taught yet. But it's definitely been very helpful in talking to people. Yeah.
It's interesting that medicine doesn't really cover or go into much depth around health and dietary information.
And that's been quite an interesting journey for me, especially in first year. We had a few lectures that did cover some nutrition topics. All of them I had something to say on. The lecturers did get some feedback from me, which they did receive very well. And I did learn that at least one of those pieces of feedback was implemented in a later year, which made me very, very happy.
Wow, that's fantastic. Did you tell anyone about your goal of becoming a doctor? And if you did, what was their reaction?
I actually didn't tell anyone for quite a while. I had started looking into what it took to become a doctor and the steps to do that, but I hadn't really shared that journey with anyone. I did have to tell my housemates because they suddenly saw me studying when I didn't need to, based on the information they had. I hadn't told anyone I was working with, and even I was doing some volunteering and I hadn't told my friends there. But after I got my results from the GAMSAT and once I'd got into uni, I did start to tell a few more people because obviously my plans for the next 4 years had changed quite a lot.
Yeah. And what was their reaction when you eventually told them?
It was really supportive. I think there'd been a small part of me that was worried that people would say, why are you doing that? Or they'd question it, or they wouldn't be supportive. But when I told my parents, they were just really proud that I got in. When I started telling people I was working with, they, again, were very supportive and saying just really encouraging things. And so it kind of made me wish that maybe I should have told people earlier, but it was a very positive response.
Given that you didn't tell many people that you were doing this, did you have any mentors or anyone helping to guide you along the journey before you were accepted into medicine?
So not really. I was just doing a lot of research on the process myself and, there's lots of resources out there that tell you how to get into medicine. And so I felt that was giving me the information that I needed. Yeah, it was mostly an independent kind of path to get here.
What about any activities that you did that kind of motivated you on that journey?
Yeah, so as a dietitian, I've worked in a number of places, both in Australia, and I've also done some volunteer work overseas. So I actually did some work with an organisation called Mercy Ships, and they're a charity organisation, and I was their dietitian for a while. And I just loved this role of, like, I was a volunteer, but I was helping people who could not access this sort of healthcare in any other way if we weren't there. And it really has motivated me to want to do more volunteering. I really want to give back and help people. And I found it very personally rewarding. And along the way, when I've tried to look for opportunities as a dietitian, Mercy Ships has been the only place I've really found, which is they're a fantastic organisation, but it just feels like there's more opportunities in other organisations that can take on doctors. That's definitely been part of the motivation for doing this.
Jess, let's take a step back. When you decided to apply for medicine, think about your first steps. Was there a plan that you had in place at all? How did you approach it?
So step one was to do the GAMSAT. I was actually applying as a rural student via the rural pathway. And at that point in time, I just was approaching it with the mindset, I'm just going to see what happens. I'm just going to do this exam and see what happens. I didn't put any pressure on myself to get a particular result. I was just going to give it a go. I'd actually left it what I felt was quite late. So it was in the middle of January when I finally signed up for GAMSAT, and I was going to do the March sitting. It didn't feel like I had left a lot of time for myself to study. So my strategy was to just take on as many practice questions as I could. I bought all of the official practice papers that ASA supplied because I felt that their questions were going to be the best representation of what the actual exam would be. So I did their practice exams for Section 1 and Section 3. I also took the opportunity to submit essays for Section 2, and so got feedback on those, which was really helpful. And then I actually borrowed a physics textbook, a HSE one, because I had never done physics, and so I was using that to supplement my studies and trying to kind of gather some thoughts that would be helpful for the essays on Section 2. And so that's kind of how I studied for the GAMSAT. And so I gave it a go. I studied, got a result that I was happy with, and that was in 2021. And so then I just applied everywhere. I applied to as many universities as GEMSAS would allow me, plus to University of Sydney on top of that. Yeah, off the back of that, I was offered a spot in Dubbo, which was really good. But I actually ended up having to decline that because I'd made a decision to go back to Mercy Ships and finish up some volunteering that had been put off because of COVID. And so I actually had to repeat that process again in 2022. Thankfully, I was reaccepted. I had repeated everything again, GEMSAS, USyd, but Dubbo did offer me a place. So it ended up working out really, really well.
That is such a diligent, focused process that you took. Do you have tips about the application and selection process for people that are also considering applying?
I think my top tip for people sitting the GAMSAT is to recognise it's a really big exam and it's a long exam, and managing your time actually becomes really, really important on the day because they're not always straightforward questions. My approach for Section 3 in particular was just to make sure that I had filled in a bubble for every question, because I didn't actually get to properly approach every single question on that section. So the last 5 minutes of the exam, I just spent picking random answers to try and make sure every bubble had been filled. And that time management is just so important, just to make sure that you get everything done, that you have attempted everything. Don't dwell on any one question for too long because there's lots of others to attempt and you may pick up a kind of points later on in the exam. So time management, very important.
So taking everything that you've said, your overall experience in applying for medicine, what are the key messages that you'd like anyone considering doing the same thing to take on board when they do sit this incredibly big exam?
I think it's really important to be kind to yourself in this process. It's not easy to study for the GAMSAT or the UCAT, whatever you're doing, and not everyone gets in the first time. But that doesn't mean you won't be a good doctor. And one of the hardest things that we keep talking about, even on this side of getting in, one of the hardest things in doing med is getting into medicine. Once you're there, people want you to stay. The uni wants you to stay. Staff are very supportive. So just be patient with yourself. It's okay if you don't get in the first time. It's okay if it takes more than like a couple of attempts at this exam, because it is big, it is hard. There are lots of people who want to do it, but it is worthwhile. And so just be patient and be kind to yourself.
And it's achievable.
Absolutely, it is achievable. Absolutely. I do genuinely believe that if you're diligent and you have an effective study strategy and you recognize your strengths and you recognize your weaknesses and you work on those things, I do think that it is an achievable goal to get into med.
You are currently at Dubbo Rural Clinical School, which is Murray-Darling Medical School's network site. Have you worked at any other hospitals?
I have actually. I did work as a dietitian actually here in Dubbo at the Dubbo-based hospital, which was a really good experience. And prior to that, I've also worked at Canberra Hospital. I had a bit of time in Sydney working at Northern Beaches Hospital. My favourite job was actually at Sydney Children's Hospital in Randwick. And of course, I had that volunteer time with Mercy Ships, and I was working with them in Senegal in West Africa. So been all over the place.
You have. You really have. Being in Dubbo, tell us about the benefits of doing your medical education there and living there.
I am so glad that I am doing medicine in Dubbo. It's just the lifestyle is just so much better. One of the things that I do not like or did not like while I was living in Sydney was the commute. I know, you can listen to podcasts and the radio and have productive time in the car and the train, but I want to do other things. And so the 10-minute commute in Dubbo suits me very nicely, whether I'm going to uni or I'm working or I'm visiting a friend. It's just everything is close. And I think that time that I save just makes me so happy. And then as part of that, it is a smaller community here, but especially as a student, it means that people who are teaching us, people who are tutoring us, they know who we are. And I think that they actually tend to care about us a bit more because we're not just another medical student. It's like, oh, that's Jess, or, I know that person. And I think that's just really, really nice and really encouraging. It's a smaller student community here. So I started in my first year there was just 26 of us in the class. And it's meant that you get to know each other really, really well. And I'm really looking forward to maintaining those friendships into the future. And then on top of that, there's lots of other things outside of study that I can participate in because I'm not spending 2 hours a day sitting in the car. So there's a lot of opportunities to be on sporting teams here, or there's art and the creative community. I'm part of a local church, and even with student activities that happen, everything's just so close. And it's just a really, really great community here.
So you've really got a great work-life balance, the thing that everyone strives for, really.
I think so, yes. I do think so.
It sounds idyllic. It really sounds amazing.
Can highly recommend it.
I want to go back to something that you were saying around study. You do have such a diligent, focused approach. What other strategies do you use? What have you found that really works for you to actually get the information in, to really study hard?
I think I'm still figuring out the best way, and I don't know if I will ever have that. And I've definitely tried lots of different things over the last 2 and a bit years. So currently, my study approach involves a lot of practice questions. So I've used the questions that the university provides, the student societies put together, and I've also been using a couple of websites, so eMedici and Past Medicine, because they've got some great question banks. I still use Anki a little bit, the flashcard program, and that's been helpful for revision and to keep me focused. For a little while, I was using physical flashcards and I was handwriting everything, and then I'd come back at the end of the term and revise them. But I was finding that it just took so much time to write them out that I wasn't really getting that time to revise the information. So I have moved past that. Any opportunities for studying with other people have been really helpful, and that's been something that I wish that maybe I would do more of, because every time I have a conversation with other students about things that we're struggling with or that we want to try and do better, I always find that I come away with something else, because everybody has a different perspective and everybody retains different information. And so I find that those conversations are also really, really helpful for studying.
Yeah, really good advice. I want to talk a bit about imposter syndrome. It's something that a lot of people that do medicine experience. Is it something that you faced? And if you have, how have you dealt with it?
I definitely think so. Like, there's been times when I've looked around at the people that I'm studying with or just where I am, and I'll just find myself questioning, like, why am I here? I don't feel like I belong. I don't feel like I know enough. Then I'll have a conversation with somebody else. I'll talk with one of my other friends who's studying and find that, oh, they might be feeling that way right now, or they felt that way quite recently. And I find it really easy to look at them and say, like, oh, but I know that they belong, and I know that they're going to be an amazing doctor. And it's easy for me to say, like, about them, like, oh, like, why would you think that? Like, you absolutely belong here. This is where you should be. And so those conversations and back and forth, I find actually quite encouraging to recognize that, okay, everybody at some point feels this way, because this is difficult, this is hard, and doctors are just people. But we are here, we're on a journey, and part of the career is recognizing that and then working through it.
Jess, with all of that in mind, what do you think it is about medicine that you could never really have prepared for?
I could never have prepared for just how much information we have to learn. It is enormous, and there have been times when I've described the amount of information just as like waves that just keep coming over and over and over again. And in between the waves, it feels like I'm just trying to like hold on to what I just got, but then another wave comes and like, I'm not ready for this. But everyone feels the same way. So it's okay. And I reassure myself by saying that I'm going to keep going and learning this information over and over and over again. And there's always resources to look at and people to talk to and ways to like find that information again, even if I have forgotten it. So I was not prepared for that. But it is okay, because it is normal, and healthcare and medicine is just huge, and no one person can retain all of that information. It's just impossible. And it means that you also really recognize other people's strengths. And I think we all love to help, and we, as a community, I think there's a generosity in sharing the things that we've learned. And I think even as a student, and I feel that even with the doctors who teach us, they're really generous with sharing the things that they know. And so, I think it does create that bond amongst colleagues and mentors and teachers that I really appreciate.
Jess Mepstead, third-year medical student at the Dubbo School of Rural Health with the University of Sydney. This is Destination Medicine. Thanks for listening. Regional training hubs are supported by funding from the Australian Government under the Rural Health Multidisciplinary Training Program.